Hey, everybody. Absolutely stunning news over here this week. We have a video version of this week's episode available on our Patreon, which is patreon.com/late night. Go over there, sign up at any tier, and you'll have access to it. Once again, that's patreon.com/late night. Now, enjoy the show. Sean, where are you calling in from? Where are you right now? Which part of the world?
I am in New York City.
New York City. Look at that.
Wait, what part of New York, Sean?
Harlem.
Okay. I don't know shit about Harlem.
It's a very cool neighborhood.
If you had to guess, Jarek, what part of New York is Harlem in? If you just had to guess.
Yeah.
Like, give me a direction. Northeast, southwest.
Okay. So I took the train all the way from Brooklyn, basically all the way east towards the east towards the water, right? Mm-hmm. And we got off.
There's a lot of water surrounding Brooklyn.
Could have gone either direction.
Yeah.
Right. It was like at Sunset Park. And so my guess is that Harlem is north above Sunset Park.
Well, it's not above Sunset Park. It is north, but it's in Manhattan north.
Oh.
It's like just above Central Park, essentially.
I'm on the Upper West Side of the Upper West Side, above the neighborhood Upper West Side.
Right.
So people are going to be able to zero in on my location pretty precisely.
Yes.
Like,
what every public figure wants is releasing the home address.
I do feel safely semi-public enough to know that likely no one, although I'm at that scary level of someone who might be really somebody to be afraid of. Mm-hmm. Right. Like if you're finding it through this and you want to come visit me for some unbeknown reason, then I'm a little bit frightened. But
yes,
a little bit frightened is sort of the daily for me.
Luckily, I think if you just say your neighborhood in New York, they're big enough that it's going to be, and there's enough apartments and stuff that
Truly.
one would hope.
I think so.
You know, I am reluctant. I don't know, Susie, how you feel, to even say my neighborhood in LA.
Oh, no, I was just thinking if someone wants to find you, they'll find you. They don't need the podcast. So
that's right.
100%.
Yeah, you inevitably being a person of the public will attract someone with mental health issues who might start stalking you or something. It's just a general percentage of the population. It's just how it is. So
Yep.
Yeah, I suggest everybody look up what to happen when you get stalked and what to do.
Right.
That's wise.
Yeah.
And maybe it hurts a little bit that I don't feel stalked at this point now. Where I'm like, yeah, you know what?
I think it's good.
Somebody, come on.
They might be quiet. You don't know. They might
that's
still be
true.
there.
Yeah, the really good ones you don't know are even there. That's right.
Well, I can live and let live with most things, so I'm good.
Yeah.
So that's where I live.
Jarek, I want to hear everything about your experience with New York City. So as a Hawaii guy, the opposite of where you grew up is pretty much New York City, right?
I love New York. New York's fucking amazing. My best friend Gino lives in Brooklyn, in Bushwick, and he loves to go out. Like, I will just look at his Instagrams, and he's out till 5 a.m. and then he goes home and disco naps and hits the rest of the day.
Define this term, disco nap.
Disco nap.
Everybody on this call is younger than I am. Sean and Susie, are you aware of the term disco nap? Is this something you've heard before?
I've heard it.
Yeah, it's just a term I've heard. Yeah.
Which means?
I just take it as a power nap, while after you're dancing. But I love New York. The bread is great.
The number one thing New York is known for is its bread scene.
Something's in the water over there, dude. Okay, literally every time I pull up to New York, to Brooklyn, I will hit the bodega downstairs from Gino's apartment and get a chopped cheese. Yeah. And it's the godsend.
Honestly, there is nothing better than a bodega sandwich.
Yeah.
It's real.
There's just something about it that it's just dialed in a way that other sandwiches are not. And I fully agree with that.
Yeah.
It is the water, I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah.
People actually sell the bottled water that you can buy to cook with.
Right. To make bagels. I've only been in LA 7 years now. Sean, for context, I'm a Jersey guy originally from northern New Jersey. And so when I came out here, bagels were, put that word in quotes, completely sucked.
Yeah.
Actively bad. And in the last 4 years, they've started getting decent bagels here. It's still not New York, but it is better than it was. And now there's like a bagel renaissance going, or it's not a renaissance because that would imply that it existed before, but there's a bagel scene in a way there wasn't before all throughout LA. There's Hank's, there's Pops, there's Yeasty Boys.
Mm-hmm. Is that the trucks?
Yes. One of those is a truck. Yeasty Boys is a truck.
Yeah.
Might be a brick and mortar now, but I've been surprised in recent years to find actually decent bagels just around town.
I mean, a bagel scene is a plus for wherever there is a bagel scene, I would say. And I lived out in LA for 1 year about 8 years ago. So maybe similar to when you first got there, 2015-ish.
Yes, that's exactly when I moved. Yeah.
Yeah. So I hadn't known New York bagels then. But now that I do, it is something I notice whenever I'm there that it's like, I don't know if I quite want to commit to both the size and scope of a bagel and what it usually says for the rest of my morning if it isn't a delicious bagel up to snuff.
Yeah. Where did you grow up, Sean?
Cleveland.
How would you characterize Cleveland? Very Midwestern?
I mean, what's interesting too, when I say Cleveland, I was outside of Cleveland in a pretty middle America suburb, sort of like Ohio. I guess they like test a lot of the new fast food chains, but even new products because it is sort of so middle of the road. Mm-hmm. Perhaps this is just something we say to ourselves in Ohio too, to give us some sense of identity. But growing up, I believe this.
Well, when you said they test a lot of the new, I thought you were going to say Republicans.
Yeah, well, it has turned that way. I mean, what's interesting is like, it wasn't that way growing up, and I'm glad my family is not particularly political, so I haven't felt as exposed. But I have definitely seen like populations of people I went to high school with and thought of as just sort of, hey, you're part of my very normal down the middle childhood. It's a changing place. I have love for it. I have love for Cleveland. Sure. I like the sports and whatnot, but my town is just sort of a small little normal town.
Yeah.
When you say you were from Cleveland, I was like, oh, I know somebody from Cleveland.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I totally blanked that Leah is from Cleveland as well. What's funny is that when I first met Leah, I was like, hey, Mom, hey, I started talking to this girl. Like, she's cool. And my mom was like, oh, where's she from? Cleveland. And my mom still lives back home in Hawaii.
Okay.
And so she's like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, compared to Hawaii. And also, it's like oddly does have a connotation, but like even just going with Leah, like Leah is so cool that anything that comes to mind with Cleveland, I wouldn't immediately assign to Leah, except for me having a soft spot.
We need to establish who certain people are right now. Okay. And so Leah being one of them, because she's not on this recording. So everybody, this is Late Night with Brian Wecht. Filling in for Leighton Gray this week is my esteemed co-host, Susie. Susie.
Hey there. How's it going?
Hi.
I'm staying in for Leighton. She's on break.
Yep. We also have on the show our wonderful producer, Jarek. Jarek, say hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. This is
Perfect.
my Australian accent, and this is my presidential pose that
very nice.
Leah really hates when I take pictures. She hates
I am not a crook. Yeah.
Do you pull that out a lot? Double V's?
So when I was in London with my friends Alex and Beth, they're like, mate, I just looked at every photo you have and you have double peace signs in them. Why is that?
First of all, flawless accent work, Jarek. I mean,
jumping around.
Pro level.
Thank you.
But we are also joined this week by a mystery guest. Mystery guest, please introduce yourself.
Mystery guest. That's a nice introduction. Nicer than I usually get. I am Sean Grandillo, and I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me, y'all.
Awesome. And Sean, where might people know you from?
I feel like people might know me from Scream, the TV show on MTV, or a spattering of sort of random, ill-fated television shows of the last few years, or from Spring Awakening, the Deaf West revival on Broadway. I think those are the things that I know myself from, so that's what I would guess.
Great. Mm-hmm. I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here this week. Okay, so now let's provide context. Jarek, who is Leah, and what is the specific status of your relationship?
Leah is my girlfriend.
There we go.
And
looking for the G word and you dropped it. Great.
The G word isn't gamer?
Yes. She is my gamer. And the whole reason why Sean is here, because they grew up together from what I have heard.
That's right. The term you're looking for is Nepo baby, I believe.
But I am not Leah's baby, to be clear. Right. I don't want it to. It's just right. To not mix anything up. No one's baby. But yeah, I grew up with Leah in Cleveland, Ohio.
Did you play stand-up bass too?
I did play stand-up bass, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So, actually, I have a question about that.
Stand-up bass.
It's
a term for it. I played it enough to know that might be just a term for it. I want to be clear.
So I have an 8-year-old who is in the process of learning piano, and something about this kid, she has a big attitude, and something about this kid screams bass to me. So here's my bass question. When you started did you start on a double bass, or did you start on like a baby bass, or how old were you when you started in on this, and what was your specific bass journey?
It's a good question, and I'm happy it's about the, quote, stand-up bass, because I am sort of a hobbyist at most with a lot of these things. However, classical bass, double bass, stand-up bass is the one thing that I started in 4th grade in the school orchestra. Okay. I had done some piano lessons, some things like that, but it was my first and really only like sort of academically learned instrument. So,
but when you're what's 4th grade? 9, 10, right? Mm-hmm. Are you on a stool? Like, how do you reach the top of a bass at that age?
I do remember the size, like, being something that as I got older, it was more like, oh, wow, okay, I can do things now. But there are sizes even to the instrument, and I'm not particularly tall now or then. So, yeah, I would, like, hide in the instrument case. I was certainly small. I could probably still hide in the instrument case, admittedly. And it was school orchestra. I wasn't sort of taking private lessons at that point. I wasn't that into it right away, but ended up going to some orchestra camps. It was one of the things that Leo was band, right? Not orchestra?
Beats me.
Okay. Okay.
Wow.
I'm not quizzing you either.
Oh, brutal. Absolutely brutal. Maybe try talking to your girlfriend occasionally, Jarek. Like, ask her questions about herself. Don't just talk about yourself all the time.
Bring up the marching band, man. It works every time. Much cooler than the orchestra in my school social hierarchy too. But
when I was in 5th grade, the instrument, we did, and I think a lot of schools still do this. They give you your first instrument in 3rd grade, a recorder.
Yes.
Right. The, little toot flute. And then in 4th grade, you get to pick a quote unquote real instrument. And I apologize to all recorder fans out there, because there actually is some pretty sick recorder music. So then I picked the saxophone, and then very quickly got promoted, lateral move, I don't know, from alto saxophone to bari sax, because there was no one playing tuba or any of the bass parts in the concert band. They needed someone to play those. And for whatever reason, I got picked to play the bari. But I was, 11 or whatever. And so we had to manufacture a little cardboard box that I could put the bari sax on to raise it up to the level where I could sit down, play it like straddling it, kind of like a cello or whatever between my legs. And this thing had to be raised up on a box so that I could reach it. So I spent 4 years with this makeshift shitty cardboard box filled with papers and other shit that we stood this bari sax on so I could play it. The thing was bigger than I was at the time.
Oh yeah, that's the Brian box. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And this thing, I traveled around with this thing. Like,
with the papers and stuff in it, it was like falling apart.
It was like a taped together box.
Yeah, I can envision this. Yeah.
And like those things are fucking expensive. It's a giant saxophone. Probably like a halfway decent one is going to cost $10,000 or something. Like, they're not cheap. And so you leave it at school. School owns one, and there's the box, but you got to bring the box back and forth out of the locker and everything. So yeah, for years I had my bari sax and my bari sax box.
Same deal, by the way. I didn't own a double bass. Again, I don't want to claim too much sort of space in that community that I'm really just a visitor in, but it was ultimately Spring Awakening. We played the instruments on stage. And my ability to say I could play that, I could read the note and make generally the right sound was, I think, the thing that filtered me through a little hole into my first opportunity. So I have a soft spot for the double bass too.
Where was Spring? Because there was this whole movement starting, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, I feel like with some of the Sondheim stuff, I think it was Company maybe was like the first one where it was the actors are playing the instruments on stage. But was Spring Awakening before that?
No. So interestingly, we played the instruments on stage sort of, I think, as an artistic approach to doing the piece with the deaf actors. So the deaf actors were representative of the characters. That was the face of, like, my character was Otto. It was this wonderful guy, Miles, who I love and miss a lot. Also, I had never met a deaf person prior to this, so this was a huge leap. I left school to do this. It was not paid, really. It was $20 from the concession stand after every show. I took my semester abroad and went to LA to do this piece. 2014 it started. But so we played the instruments as we spoke their lines while they signed, sort of acting as their conscience, sort of floating around them. And it was just a really cool thing on so many levels. But when was that Company? Maybe 2008, 9? I can get real theater nerd.
I feel like it was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And then they did another one. Was it Sweeney Todd after that? Yeah.
I love Sweeney Todd.
It's the best.
It's coming back. Josh Groban.
I know.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Starts next month.
And of course, the big Sondheim news is that Richard Linklater is doing Merrily We Roll Along over the next 20 years or something.
Yes.
With who is it? It's Daniel Radcliffe and who else?
Well, Daniel Radcliffe is in it here right now. That's going to Broadway. I think it's Ben Platt.
Oh,
in
yes,
the movie,
it's Ben Platt.
in
Yes,
the
right.
movie.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
can you imagine? Like, that's overwhelming, honestly.
Susie and Jarek, do you know anything about this?
I don't know.
Correct me if I say anything wrong about this. Actually, Merrily We Roll Along was the first show I ever conducted.
Oh, that's a really cool one to conduct.
It's a great one. So yeah, I conducted the Musical Theater Society when I was in college. This was their production when I was a junior, and I was the conductor. It's famous because it's one of Sondheim's flops, at least at the time. It's from, I think, 81. Is that right?
Somewhere in there. Yeah.
Somewhere in there. And the shtick of the show is it goes backwards in time. So you start out with these three friends, one of whom has become a very successful composer type. And you start at the end of their kind of relationship when they're old and kind of bitter and the relationship is falling apart. And then as the show goes on, you go backwards in time to the beginning of their relationship when they're all young and fresh-faced and, looking forward to an amazing life and, career together. So it's pretty cynical.
Oh, no.
Because you end on a hopeful note, which how it's going to go because that's where the show started. And has a great, just a million great numbers in it, but was at the time not very successful when it first came out. But I think since has been reevaluated and is now more widely beloved. Does that sound about right?
I think that's perfect. Yeah. It's really good. And this movie, so I assume what they'll be doing is shooting the young, what will ultimately end up being the end of the movie now, while the actors are this age, probably shooting the beginning of the movie, the end of their careers in, 20 years? However long it is.
20 years or something.
And to watch that, it's cynical and it's moving about the hope of a creative life and where it can get you when you have to interact with the capitalist American world. I think it's set in the 50s or so a different time, but the same sort of thing that remains painfully a part of my life certainly today. And I feel like all of us as creatives, where you interact with what was my passion again when I was a kid, what was that dream that I was having again, and not in a dark way, but a thing you have to redefine for yourself as you grow up to keep connected to that, because I find life exponentially more complicated now at 30 than I did even 5 years ago.
Oh, totally. It's an interesting exploration of collaboration, right? So what happens in this show is the composer, Franklin Shepard, has his friend and collaborator, Charlie, I think is the guy's name.
Yeah.
Can't remember, right? And they basically, as Franklin gets more and more famous, he has less time for his friend, and he turns into, there's a really great patter song, one of the all-time great Sondheim ones called Franklin Shepard Inc., where it, a lot of that kind of stuff. And it's his friend angry that Franklin doesn't have time for him anymore. And I think it's an interesting exploration of this collaboration and how it evolves over time. And look, I don't want to say too much because I hope this is not going to be interpreted in any negative light, but I am also in a creative partnership where my partner has gotten much more better known than I am. And when I listen to that, we have a great relationship, like there's no problems along these lines, but in a way that, 25 years ago or whatever it was when I conducted this, it didn't hit home. I was like, oh, look, I can relate to this. I've been working with Danny, my partner in my band, for 15 years. And since then, he has gotten pretty well known. We both have, but he's really like gone off the charts. And that song hits home, or that show hits home in a way. I was like, oh, I'm in one of these partnerships where, we were kind of struggling along at the beginning and then paths started diverging. And so it, as the kids say, it just hits different these days when I listen to that. And I want to be very clear that I'm not saying anything negative about Dan Avidan on the record.
That felt very not negative to me.
Right.
Like, I believe you. That was beautiful, though, honestly. And yeah, I mean, it is a weird thing. I certainly have friends and lovers and exes and here and there who have various interactions with whatever that fame, known, public thing is. That is not a space I'm particularly comfortable, even, having my sort of like 5 minutes of it that I've even been sort of a part of. Like, it's an interesting thing to look at and think about, again, with the art, that we all want to like make that art that's in our hearts, whatever that is. And we'd love for people to see it. But like, the initial want isn't the superficial, scary one. It's just, again, life. You get tempted, you get sad in this way, and you want to make up for it with this way. You can assign value to all these things that, like, I certainly have found like a lot of reflection lately and a lot more happiness in doing my best to, whether or not I can connect with some passionate childlike wonder at all times is not the thing, but to try to be deliberate or aware of what is going on so I can at least interact with the life around me, knowing where I'm even coming from.
Yeah, totally.
And the show's about all that, I think.
It's also interesting to me, life in the arts, and this show is kind of about this too, is you do a bunch of different stuff and then one thing kind of hits. And then it's very tempting to think, oh, that's my thing now. I'm going to do that again. Or that's what you get booked for. Like, casting agents can only see what's right in front of them. And if they see you as one thing in one project, it's very tempting to be like, oh, I'll just cast them again is exactly this type of role. And it's also a very self-perpetuating cycle where you can make money doing a thing and then you can get booked for that thing. And then 10 years later, you're like, oh, wait, am I always an asshole? Like, every character I play is just a consummate dick? What? And it's very interesting how one lucky break and a couple of choices early on then shoot you off 10 years later into some place you never thought you'd be.
Oh, it totally starts in the childhood. Like, you're a kid and, for example, like, you're told, oh, you're really good at drawing. And you're like, oh, that's my thing. Like, I'm the artist. So then you suddenly lean into that. That's your identity. And then you're suddenly launched into that world. I think that's where that starts. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And it's something as a parent that I think a lot about raising a kid. I want her to think she's able to do basically everything. And so we try very deliberately to not say, this is the thing you're good at. This is what you do. Part of that is you praise the effort, not the result, right?
Oh,
it's so great that you're doing that. That's awesome. That sort of thing. Because I don't want her to think, oh, this is the only thing that I can do with whatever it is.
Every time I see her with you guys, she's doing a new hobby or a new thing. It's amazing. She's just growing so beautifully. Yeah, she's amazing.
No, she's the best. She's a great kid and widely interested in stuff. We had a friend over yesterday, and Audrey was just talking about how much she loves math. Oh, I love math. I'm great at math. I love doing math. And I do division with my dad. And,
such a unique child.
Yeah, she's the best. And then she's, cartwheels out of the room and then is like, singing some song to herself for 3 hours. It's the best.
That's amazing. I have a question. So, Sean, Leah and I kept seeing your face around Los Angeles via a certain banner of a certain show that you just got done touring.
This is true.
And I would like to just talk about that. So you were in a show called Emo-klahoma.
Correct.
I believe it's pronounced Oklahoma.
Brian knows his musicals.
Yeah, that's right.
Is it really pronounced Oklahoma?
No.
Oh. Fucking hell.
Jarek, I love that we've known each other for like 5 years, and I can still get some of those by you.
Musicals are a space that I don't know anything about.
Oklahoma, it's a sequel to Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark about Doc Ock.
Stop.
Yeah.
I've seen Rent, so
Yeah, it's sort of like that.
Yeah. Sorry, I completely derailed this question. Yes, please continue.
yeah. So what do you know about Oklahoma, Sean?
What do I know about it?
Wow, that's a broad question.
Ooh, yeah, go deep.
Very aggressive too, Jarek.
Give me some facts about Oklahoma.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, I mean, Oklahoma is, I think, a cool thing to know about it, even as sort of maybe not a musical theater fan, is it represents sort of a big shift in what the genre is and was, in that it was one of the first musicals. I believe it was 1943, as if these dates matter, but I really do think that it was 1943 it came out. It's a Rodgers and Hammerstein. They've written a lot of the big classics.
Was it their first big musical?
I think it might have been. Yeah. It was certainly the first, though, to have songs that propelled the plot forward just as the scenes did. Prior to that, I think it was just, these were vehicles for music to reach consumers. The songs that were on Broadway used to be one and the same of American pop music. It was a different thing altogether until this time, when it really sort of became this clarified, almost like neo-opera thing, more similar to how it still is today. So it's very cool in that it represents the first time that was done. And this production that I was in was a revival that was on Broadway the year before the pandemic, 2019. And it's a small production. It's a dark production. This show is not particularly dark on its face in the way that it's normally presented. And it's really a part of like Americana now. And that was one of the interesting things actually about taking out this different version of it that really flipped this thing that you could almost put it in a museum in some sense. It just represents something. To do this differently, it was, lauded, and I think it won the Tony here for Best Revival. But it was challenging for a lot of these markets that we went to around the country where they saw signs for Oklahoma, and they came expecting something. There's a movie of it, a great movie, honestly. It's worth watching too, even from a sort of, American history type of thing.
Yeah.
But ours was darker. It was stripped down. It was very...
It's adult.
Yeah, let's call it that. Yeah, sexually charged in a way that wasn't just innuendo. It was kind of about that. Some race and gender issues were both looked at via the text that's there. We also didn't change any of the text. So it was a lot done in the staging and sort of the way that it was presented, where rather than I was Curly, who was just sort of the, for lack of a better way to put it, like the male ingenue. I'm the cowboy and the girl's
basically
gonna
the
want
lead,
me.
the male lead
exactly.
of the show.
Yeah. But in mine, I was definitely, I had some darkness and some manipulative, and without changing the text, we just angled the show differently, which I think worked really well in one sense, but it was a very challenging thing to do. Very challenging. LA was wonderful because more people were.
I am so bummed. I had tickets.
Yeah.
And then my daughter got booked for a shoot exactly that weekend, and I had to stage dad. So I couldn't come to see the show. And I was so bummed to miss it. But yeah, you guys are with the Amundsen, right?
We were. Yeah. And that is a bummer, but a great reason to miss. That's exciting for her.
So Judd changed a little bit too, right? They made him less of a villain and more of a sympathetic.
Correct. I mean, it was really a love triangle here where it was a little more. And what I liked about it too, it centered the female character, Lori, who was really, as a lot of shows were back then, underwritten, not the focal point. She was just sort of caught, in ours, she was driving the entire action. And I think it was very cool, but I definitely think people were confused. It was a little bold in its strokes from the director, and I think a lot of people didn't know how to take it in. And it's, it's a 3-hour mega musical that I think some of those moments really worked, and then some of them didn't work as well. And then being the lead of that 8 times a week in places where in the first few minutes I could tell whether they were going to like this or not. And I'm like, all right, here's 40% of the dialogue. Sorry, I don't mean to be upsetting you.
Were you part of the Broadway cast at all, or you joined for the touring?
So I joined for the touring. I saw it twice. I really liked it. And I had thought to myself, oh, it's a cool, my voice is high, but it's not a wailer high tenor. So I always am drawn to those sort of baritone, particularly like guitar driven. That's sort of a niche that I found in musical theater. I don't really dance, so I need specific things or else I don't really belong there. But yeah, I wasn't a part of it. I had seen it twice. And Ali Stroker was in Spring Awakening with me. She's this fabulous actress who happens to be in a wheelchair. Actually, she just had her first kid, which is amazing. Nice. She won a Tony in this production of Oklahoma. So I had a bit of a connection to it from that and talked to her about it when I was auditioning. And so that's what I know about Oklahoma, Jarek. Not much and too much.
So, Jarek, you might know, it has some songs that are now like, I mean, classic standards, right? Oh, What a Beautiful Morning is the big one.
No,
right?
no.
Which you, of course, open the show with every time, right?
Oh, God, no. Legitimately triggering a little bit.
I bet.
Oh, no.
It's okay.
The title song is a big one, too. What's the other one? People Will Say We're in Love, right? That's a duet, right?
It is, yeah.
That's
honestly, the new
song.
Album is wonderful to listen to. It's more pop, country, lilt. It sounds really good. I really enjoyed the musical aspect of the whole thing. So.
What was the orchestration? Was it just a full pit or what?
No. So that's one of the coolest. I actually think that's one of the most successful things too. It's bluegrass, pedal steel, banjo.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes. And they were on stage with us, these musicians too, to like travel with these guys who, again, I sort of dabble. I play a few instruments. I make music. It's really a hobby thing for me. These wonderful players who then also were like in the show. We interacted with them a little bit.
That's awesome.
It was very cool. Listen to the album. I think you'd like it a lot, whether or not you know Oklahoma. It's very cool, and it's not too show-tuney when it's done this way.
Yeah. Rodgers and Hammerstein are some of the masters of musical theater songwriting. Like the stuff still works. You know, some of the plays and the language are a bit dated, of course. They're like almost 100 years old in some cases.
Yes.
So that's to be expected. But the songs like are just the best.
Yeah. I wonder like what else cultural things that are near 100 years old that are even shown at any level commercially, or like I'm trying to think of what I interact with that is 100 years old. And it's interesting to me that I should know these words to this show that is at least 85 years old.
I guess like Disney stuff, you know, Mickey Mouse. When was Steamboat Willie? The 20s? No.
Yeah. I mean, America's still so new.
Yeah.
That's true.
I think it was 1920s.
Looney Tunes, Popeye, right? Looney Tunes, I guess, weren't the 20s, but late 30s, early 40s, right?
Yeah. And we still know that medium. I mean,
that's true.
The copyright license is about to come up on Mickey Mouse too, by the way, I think they said. So
they're going to snake something here, right?
No. Yeah, no.
Yeah. I don't trust them to let that shit. I mean, they already extended it once, right?
Oh, yeah. I really wanted to ask Sean, what was it like to tour and do the show 8 shows a week? Like, that sounds exhausting. So how often are you in a different city when you're touring?
For the most part, we had a week in each city, which was probably the minimum bearable. I mean, we had a few things where it was like 2 shows here. There's some union protections of if you're moving this many days, we had maybe 7 shows this week if we had to do 2 cities that week. But it is exhausting. And I don't have a ton of experience being in musicals, frankly, professionally. Like I did Spring Awakening, which was a really niche. I was playing an instrument I had played. I was 21 years old. I was in the band more than I was sort of an actor, public facing, you know, thing in the world of the show. I was more a musician than anything. I was sort of playing myself. It was a dream come true. Not to mention the added sort of oomph that meeting this group of young deaf people and becoming their friend and learning sign language, and the legitimacy that felt like it gave our show. 20 of us made a Broadway debut.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Truly. One of the things that I feel, even as I've grown, changed all these things, was like that had some magic, deathbed grateful for kind of no cynicism about it.
That's great.
Day to day during the experience, it was still a fun group of 20-year-olds complain about this or that, but that was a winner. It's one of the magic things when theater goes right, because you're like in the trenches every day. The travel of the tour was exhausting, and to have to sing like this, I really had to get myself in shape as it went, because I couldn't simulate. It wasn't even just the singing, but the speaking over and over again.
Yeah.
My voice is already not in as good a shape as it was, and it ended, I think, near the beginning of November. So I'm grateful. Yeah, it was cool.
I am a touring musician, and I want to get to the nitty gritty. So, are you guys sleeping on a bus, or are you doing hotels?
We're doing hotels, which was nice.
That's what I figured. Nice.
Yeah. And it became its own weird rhythm. It's quite an interesting experience to have had as not COVID and all of the complications with that notwithstanding.
Right.
We were the first tour to launch after COVID. Mm-hmm. So things were being learned on the road, and it was tricky.
Did anyone get COVID or get sick while, you're in a production, you're out in the world when you're not on stage. People are going to get at least colds or something, but
definitely
these days, COVID. So people must have gotten sick.
They did, yeah. And I think it's open enough now that like a lot of tours have had to cancel performances. We never had to cancel a performance for COVID. There's, wonderful understudies who know 4 or 5 different parts who are ready to go on at a moment's notice. We had all of them on a couple of times, and that's an amazing skill set in and of itself too, which I would honestly love the challenge of that someday. I could imagine understudying someone and just trying to hold all that information in my head. But a lot of testing. Also, one of the weirdest things was, this was late 2021, like how differently various pockets of the country felt. It was almost like traveling around Europe in different places, how culturally varied both, in general, but the response to COVID was, there were no masks in some places where you felt odd having it on. And then there were intense masks in the next place. And sometimes you didn't have it on because you had become used to the other thing. Right. And things were so fluid. It was even pre-Omicron when we started. And
Right.
But it was a wonderful post-COVID like kind of jolt back. And to be doing theater, which relies on large gatherings of people in the audience, it was a really like, we're going to be okay. Life has changed. The world has changed. But yeah.
I felt the same. So we did our first tour back starting in fall 22, a few months back. And it felt so normal in the best way to be like, we're back on stage, we're performing, we're hanging out in the green room. It wasn't exactly the same. We were playing it pretty safe. We didn't have people backstage, stuff like that.
Same.
But I felt that vibe of being back and performing again was just the best. But yeah, that was after basically 2 years off of live performing. And the one thing we had done, which was like a tape thing, with a film crew and like, everyone's testing and masking. And this was in 21. It just was like, So, you could feel like, okay, it's back. Life is kind of coming back again. I agree. It's just a wonderful feeling.
Yeah.
Getting back to some of the theater stuff. What did you grow up with? What were your favorite musicals? All that stuff. Like if I was Mark Maron, I'd say, who are your guys?
Okay, so Brian, I don't want to disappoint you, but theater for me was sort of a later thing, junior year of high school. Yeah,
it's just the truth.
Well, sometimes, thank you for that, Brian. That's going to get me through the rest of this week.
Yeah.
I was in like emo bands. I loved emo, Warped Tour, screamo, hardcore kind of stuff.
Nice.
And that was my identity into high school. We played in a couple of like Battle of the Bands, House of Blues. We won one time. It was a fun childhood
hold on.
interest.
You want a Battle of the Bands? I want to hear all about this. So,
oh God, I'm cringing at myself.
What's the band name?
I think the band name at this point was The Crazed.
Yes.
That's a good name. Yes.
It's not the worst
With
name.
a K or a C?
With a C, which I like a little better. It wasn't full on like...
But you wrote it in the corn font with the backwards R, right?
Exactly.
Is this on YouTube?
Yes.
Can people look this up?
I don't know if that band is on YouTube. I've done some scrubbing of this, which I regret most of it because I am totally at a place now where I have perspective on, hey, don't judge your 15-year-old self.
Yes,
Let's look
of
at
course.
this. But some stuff is on there if anyone wants to search about it.
Rules.
But yeah, my band broke up in high school and I was like, oh gosh, what do I want to do to like scratch that itch? I remember crying on a sofa at my dad's house and my mom had come over. They were talking to me about, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I just want to like play music. It was so weird and whiny.
That's traumatic when your band breaks up. It's
That's
hard.
kind,
Yes.
Brian. That's kind.
Yeah.
It was hard, but I found this theater magnet program just through the public school I went to. It was through the same thing as like tech classes that people can start taking in the back half of high school. Like there was an auto body part of this program. There was a theater part of this program. So I also met kids from 9 different schools, which my school was pretty, like I said, down the middle, not a whole lot of variety in all ways. It almost felt like I went to college for half the day, junior, senior year of high school, where all these kids from neighborhood high schools were doing theater together at this program.
That's
and
awesome.
It changed my life. It was amazing.
That's great. That's one of the great things about any art form, right? Is it doesn't matter when you come to it.
Right.
It meets you where you are when you get there.
True
and,
that.
you don't have to grow up with, whatever it is to really enjoy it. Yeah, right.
God forbid.
Yeah. Although I would love to see, Emo-klahoma, right?
Oh,
Hold on.
That's the next iteration. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
we got to talk off mic about this.
Yeah. I think we might have something here.
Me too.
In Oklahoma.
Yes.
Emo-klahoma. Just get E-boys to do the whole cast.
Right.
Yeah.
Here's the opening song. It's called God Fuck This Morning.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm over this.
Yeah. Feel the money roll in.
Oh my God. It was so weird. Like for me, that was pop music. And it was so much more back early 2000s, that like wave of that. And it's another thing I'm having like realizations about too. Like now having lived through enough waves, understanding that they are waves and being able to look back at myself when like I didn't know that and just was what. It's just that like growing up thing. I'm in my Saturn returns. I'm out of it. Thank God. Thank God.
I love iconoclasts that are clearly part of a movement. Where it's like, I'm just being myself. Nobody's like me. And then it's just part of everyone else who's saying nobody's like me at that particular time. It's
brutal.
so great. I'm 47. And so I was in high school in the early 90s, late 80s, and so I saw the grunge people like just coming up when I was in high school. Doc Martens, all that stuff that has basically become a, kind of a caricature of itself now. But yeah, there's always something, and you're always part of some movement, something going on. And I think it's the best. Teenagers who are trying to stand out, I love it. It's a joy to watch. As a middle-aged person now, I love watching teenager because it's like, it's adorable. It's just like, oh, you guys are being so cute right now with your alt clothes or whatever. It's so great. Yeah.
It sounds like you've been doing a lot of like self-reflection, Sean, and like you mentioned you're like in your 30s now, and I know that that's like a big thing when I hit my 30s too. And like, did you know like when you were a kid that this was what you wanted to do? Like when you were a child, did you have any kind of inkling that this was the direction you were going to go?
I think I was, as you said earlier, like, oh, you can sing. My father was a musician, and I think he liked that I could even sing like in tune, along to little songs. And so recognized that and in no way pushed me, thank goodness. I played basketball and stuff. I did a bunch of stuff, and then people got tall and I did not. But from like middle school on, at least the band thing, I really wanted to be in like a Warped Tour band like that. I think that is still something I can just look at of like, like, come on. So yeah, actually, like, and I feel really fortunate to even be able to sort of say, in this period of reflection and COVID, the way that it threatened entertainment and live performing in particular was existential in a very like, all of those voices of like, the requisite doubts and things like that come up now in this phase of like, how will you survive? And it's been an interesting thing to go through and then realize like, even the parts of it that are a little, as an adult, whoa, out there, I'm taking a risk with this thing, to embrace those parts again, to be like, whatever the different texture of my life might have versus like if I knew what my salary was going to be next year, if I knew, I could try to plan 10 years ahead. I'm going to embrace the differences about knowing that, as long as it doesn't feel self-destructive. And remember that like these are choices I am making, and remake those choices again. And so that's really where I've been. And I am just 30 now, but I was ready to be. I felt a little listless in my 20s, bad breakup, the whole thing in my late 20s, and then COVID. Now I have a wonderful girlfriend of 3 years who has been a big part of my grounding and like realizing a lot of things. COVID felt like it came at a time for me where like time to sit and think was productive. So in that sense, that very small sense, I am grateful to have had that time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
COVID for me, it was like, it brought back a lot of childhood stuff for me, because the only other time I had been stuck at home and not able to go out was when I was a kid. So it was like the perfect time to reflect on all of that childhood trauma and stuff. So I totally feel that.
Where are you from?
I'm from Florida.
Okay, cool. So you were back there.
I was in the South. I wouldn't go back.
Yeah, I feel you.
Do you think of Florida as the South, Susie? I've always been curious about this.
I consider it the South because we had all Southern sayings, soda, clicker, y'all, I don't know. And it was also deeply racist and awful. So, I mean, yeah, I do consider it the South. Yeah.
What is clicker, Susie?
Oh, wait, hold on. Wait. Don't tell him. Jarek, I'm not 100% sure I know, although I think I do. What do you think clicker means, Jarek? And Sean, too. We'll throw this to you, too. So, but Jarek, you go first.
I mean, when I think of clicker, I think of like a bug. Like just like
a bug. Like an insect.
Like an insect, just like at night, like locusts, like clicking away.
Cool. And in Florida, they're 3 feet long. Right. Yeah. It's like that movie Mimic, if you've ever seen that. Yeah. Sean, clicker?
Jarek, I like that little ASMR you did there. Like that was a very satisfying sound.
We're going to do a spin-off series where Jarek just makes clicking and buzzing sounds. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah.
I think a clicker's a television remote.
That's what I think too.
Yeah.
It's the TV remote. Yeah.
Yeah. I dated a girl from Florida for a while, and that's where I learned
I'm sorry.
that term.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That relationship actually did not end well. But yeah, I always said remote or remote control growing up in Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Jarek, what did you say in Hawaii?
Fucking remote control. Like
Great. Cool. Yes.
Normal person.
like a normal person. That's right. I think this is a good time to move on to some segments. So I want to move on to our first segment, a fan favorite segment. This is our pop culture recommendation segment. It's where you get to talk about a book, a movie, a video game, any kind of pop culture, or not even necessarily pop culture, high culture, low culture, whatever it is that you've been enjoying recently. This segment is called What's Poppin', and the theme song, which Mr. Jarek Santana will add in post, goes here.
What's poppin'?
What's poppin'? Great. That was the theme song. Now, Sean, I want to ask you the question I like to ask people, which is, if you were to have heard that theme song, what would you have thought about it?
It was killer. I love it. I want to do a cover of it. I want to be a part of it.
Yeah, that's right. Can I hire the crazed to do a cover of it?
Sure thing. I'll call the other members.
Round them up.
Yeah.
Get the team back together.
Yeah.
A last try. Warped tour.
Wait a minute. That's a great idea for a show, right? You get like people get their high school bands back together.
Oh.
Right? Like get adults.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm going to write this down. Get people who are whatever, maybe 30 and up, and you get the band back together. Okay, here's the pitch. They do an old song, but they also have to do a new song that they write together.
Love it.
Right.
Love that.
And depending on the age of the person, let's say you get people in their 60s now. Let's see, when they were in high school, that would have been 50 years ago.
Wow.
Right. So you can get some fucking 70s stuff happening.
Oh.
Probably some emotional moments and reunions. Maybe some band members are no longer with us or can't come. I mean, I both see it working really well as like a reality show, and also like if one vignette in particular seemed really good, you could make that a scripted show too.
A whole thing. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, you may cut this out. We don't want to give this idea up,
This idea shouldn't
This
be
is
free.
too good. Yeah.
Exactly. Susie, what's poppin'?
Oh my God. So I'm a collector of the odd and the weird. You know,
Cool.
I like to collect my weird things. And for What's Poppin' this week, I picked a board game.
Okay.
It was a board game that was really popular in America until The Exorcist came out. And then it got a really negative connotation. And I'm talking about the Ouija board.
Oh, I thought you could say Monopoly.
So I got a new Ouija board. I'm a collector and I wanted to share it because I thought it was fucking hilarious. This is the Holy Spirit board and it's to talk directly to Jesus Christ.
Wow. We can't see because it's pixel, or at least I can't see. But
yeah. I mean, if you're on the Patreon, you
yes,
can
that's
see
right.
it.
Oh, nice. Well done.
But otherwise, you can find it on Amazon still. The planchette that you move around the board is actually a cross.
Wow.
Hell yeah.
And it says like, hello, Jesus and goodbye, Jesus. And the
Wow.
reviews on Amazon are fucking hilarious. I highly recommend looking it up. Like literally like someone's like, Jesus wants me to have eternal riches. But for some reason, he forgot to put the numbers on the Ouija board. So he can't tell me the lottery numbers. And it's like, that's the one thing that you like really need on a Ouija board. How could you forget the numbers?
Wait, so there's no numbers on that board?
No, it literally whoever made it, it's just to communicate with Jesus. Like there's no
Well,
numbers.
I don't know how to break this to them, but like you can write numbers in letters, you know, like
That too.
just spell the word.
I mean, but if you want to go really deeper, like, are you really talking with Jesus? Like,
The big question when making that purchase.
Also, he would be, well, I guess Jesus can speak any language these days.
because there's a
But-
lot of other reviews on there saying like, you're definitely not talking to Jesus through this.
You know what? I suspect that may be true. I suspect that may be true. Well, you can also ask it, is this really Jesus?
See what it says.
I would lie if I were a demon. Like, wouldn't
I
you?
guess that's a good point.
Yeah.
Do you think if you asked it, do you think it would give you Jesus' phone number?
We can't, doesn't have any numbers. So
Jesus'
that's
phone
it.
number is just one.
Yeah, the first one.
You just dial
Area
one.
code 0001.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. +0, which is the exchange for heaven, and then 1. Yeah.
I mean, they reset the years for this fella. You know, I don't even know what the phone numbers before would have been.
Yeah. Jarek, what's popping?
What is popping for me is a little movie called The Menu,
Oh, shit. I've been meaning to see it.
featuring Anya Taylor-Joy and fucking, I don't know what his fucking name is. The guy who played Voldemort in Harry Potter.
Ray Fiennes?
Ray Fiennes.
Is that his name?
Yes.
Incredible. Such a good performance. The acting is great. The writing is great. It's apparently the guys, I haven't seen it yet, but the same people who wrote Succession.
Mm-hmm.
It just has like a very like snarky attitude, but like very like laid back. And just think of like, at least the Ray Fiennes' character, the chef. I just think a lot about Gordon Ramsay, but like a very like reserved, chill Gordon Ramsay, but he still gives you like that like bite and attitude without having to like yell in like a stereotypical kitchen scenario. But it's an amazing movie. But I think what I love more about the film is the score, is a musical score.
Oh.
It was this guy, Colin Stetson, who's also done like other stuff like Hereditary. He's done like one of the updated Texas Chainsaw Massacres. But
Cool.
this score is incredible because it uses primarily strings. And I think the best thing about it is that there's so much polyrhythms in the string arrangements. I'm a big lover of polyrhythmic stuff. It's just
Same.
a cool way to get rhythms across. But yeah, it's one of my favorite scores, one of my favorite movies in a while. Definitely like new top like 5.
Oh,
What
awesome.
was it called again?
The Menu. It's on HBO. Yeah, it's like a dark comedy, dark satire. Oh yeah, and also just imagine if it was like Chef's Table meets kind of like something with Gordon Ramsay. That's the way I kind of look at The Menu.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Rachel saw it and she loved it. And she was like, we got to watch it again because it's rad. So
so
I
good.
wanna see it.
Before you ask me, I concur. I saw that too. And thankfully, it wasn't sort of maybe my answer I was going to give here, but I love how you're describing it too with Gordon Ramsay. And I also think almost like Get Out, the movie,
Yes,
in that it has
yes.
such tone. It like doesn't fall into, oh, it's a serious chef movie. And it doesn't fall into, oh, it's a camp horror movie. It's very well done. I loved it too.
Yeah.
Sean, what's popping?
First, I'm going to say Halo Infinite on the Xbox.
Nice. Great.
Just in that, it's Halo. It's not reinventing the wheel, but I've been spending a lot of my, I need brain massage hours there in lieu of things like TikTok scrolling. I don't post, but I scroll. And I think Halo is one of those that we forget how great of a game it is because the franchise has been out for a long time, but the multiplayer is really smooth. It's fun. I'm not a huge gamer other than Halo. So the fact that it has stuck around in my life when other things have fallen by the wayside. And reading in general. I've been reading more. I'm trying to read a book a week. I am currently on track.
What are you reading right now?
I'm reading a book called Abundance by fellow whose name I don't know because a friend gave it to me. Apparently this guy lives on my block in New York.
Oh, no way. That's awesome.
And it's very, very good. And he's young. I think it's his first novel. It's very cool. But trying to read just a wide range of things just to, again, it's those hours that I'm not a purist. I like my phone. I think I can decompress healthily enough on it, but I need to vary it up so it isn't just like the catch-all. Back pain too, Back pain is popping lately, regrettably.
Sorry. We love a triple pop here.
Brian.
Now, Susie, yes.
Oh, Brian.
Yes.
Yeah,
Jarek.
Brian, what's poppin'?
Oh, wait, everybody asked me. Okay, Jarek, you asked me first.
Brian, what's poppin'?
Susie.
What's poppin'?
Sean.
Brian, what's poppin'?
Boom. Thank you. Well, thank you all for your interest. I really, truly do appreciate it. What is poppin' for me is a brand new television series. It's Poker Face, which is the Rian Johnson series, I think executive produced and starring Natasha Lyonne. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, 70s detective shows are kind of having a moment right now. I feel like people are obsessed with Columbo and Mannix and Rockford Files and all these old school 50-year-old detective shows. And Rian Johnson and Natasha Lyonne, I think they co-created it, but I'm not quite sure, have this sort of 70s but modern style thing, and I'm 2 episodes deep and it's just great. It's kind of like a murder of the week type thing, and the shtick is that Natasha Lyonne plays a character who can tell with 100% accuracy whether someone is lying or not, and that's her detective superpower. And she's not a detective, she's just a person. And I don't want to give anything else away about the show, but it is clearly an homage to 70s, 80s detective stuff. And it's just really fun. First 2 episodes are great. I think they only have 3 out so far, but I've been really enjoying it. And I like Rian Johnson a lot. He's done a lot of great stuff. I personally really liked Last Jedi. A lot of people hated it, but I feel like he gets hate for dumb reasons. So yeah, Poker Face, Rian Johnson, Natasha Lyonne, and I think it's on Peacock.
I love Natasha Lyonne.
Me too.
I have to say, I felt like she was getting a little overexposed, and I had sort of turned a corner where I was like, I don't know about her so much, but this has brought me right back where she's just awesome in this.
That's cool.
It's a really fun show. Yeah.
I think the first thing I've ever seen of Natasha Lyonne was American Pie. Oh, and she was in Honey Boy.
She was a child actor who started very young and has been acting for, 30 something years, I think. So yeah, she's been on screen her entire life. And I love that her career is arguably stronger than ever now. And it seems like she's doing cool stuff, taking chances. Russian Doll was her creation. Season 1 of that was amazing. Season 2, a little less so, but whatever, just personal taste. But yeah, I love that she's kicking ass right now.
Yeah, she's having a moment for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Also, it makes me want to watch. I don't think I've ever seen an episode of Columbo, but something about it I love Peter Falk. I think I would really like it. And so I think I'm going to start watching Columbo.
Do you think that the true crime people have just run out of true crime and that's why they're going back to all these old detective shows?
That's right. It feels like there's an overlap there for sure.
The true crime community has jumped the shark, I feel, with the new movies that come out and not, representing the victims properly and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing where I like true crime. Again, that was one of those things that I can't even sit here and think I was never caught up in that as a successful commercialized movement of stuff, because it is just so it ticks a lot of those boxes. But I do think there's such a difference between the ones of those that work because it's an artistic rendering of this case or even artistic journalism, when a journalist does it really with that care versus the ones that are gratuitous at best and then a little bit like just, wow, corporate America is just willing to sell like the murderer, horrifying demon now to girls the way that they used to like a rock star or an actor, you know?
Yeah. A lot of the true crime stuff too, there's this very off-putting, at least to me, shoehorning of a narrative into these things where you can just, in many cases, tell the bias of the person that's making the thing and who often I don't trust to be, you know.
Or giving a good message.
Yes, without agenda.
Yeah, exactly. And I've never been a big fan in general, but when I do hear them, I'm like, do I believe this person? Why should I believe this person? Follow the money. Like, who's paying for that? You know, that sort of thing. Like, this opening up of what narratives we get to see is, like many other things, a good thing and a bad thing. And it's great we now, thanks to the internet and society in general, we get to experience a lot of different stories we otherwise wouldn't have. But also, that means that people can just make shit up because of the democratization of information. It's all kind of presented on a level playing field, and it's very hard to tell what is true and what is not. So it's troubling, but also empowering.
Well put. I agree.
Susie, would you mind introducing our second and final segment?
Yes. So the last second, I don't know, is it the last segment?
It is both the second and the last segment.
Peaches and lemons.
Peaches and lemons. Peaches and lemons.
So everybody knows what a peach and a lemon is, but in case you don't, it's okay. Chill. I got it for you. So a peach is going to be, it's like a gratitude. It's like something that you're thankful for, something that really good happened. And I'll start it off easy for you guys. I'll tell you guys my peaches so you guys get like a feel for it and get a good example. So first peach, so thankful for my health. I've been just really thankful and being healthy and thankful for it. I know a lot of people who are dealing with a lot of long-term health problems, and it's devastating. So I think a lot of people don't recognize and acknowledge how good it is to be young and healthy, and you should enjoy it while you can. My second peach is Y2K fashion is back.
Oh.
I don't know about you guys. I feel like Leighton would be on my page with this. Low-rise jeans are back, you know, like all kinds of weird belt buckles, like chunky shoes. I'm fucking digging that. And then my third peach, Brendan Fraser, having a big comeback moment. Love my man, Brendan Fraser.
Yes, I heard his interview on
he's
Mark
my angel.
Maron.
He's an earth angel. So that's definitely a peach.
What I love about Brendan Fraser interviews is when you hear him talk, most of the time he's talking like this, and you're doing an interview with Brendan Fraser. He's like, yeah. And then I went over here, and every once in a while he goes here, and then he comes back down, and he's just kind of talking like this, and he sounds very sincere. And this Mark Maron interview, you know, I listen to every WTF, but more than any one I've heard in recent memory, there are pauses where things get emotional and people need to, like, either Brendan Fraser or Mark Maron just need to take a moment and collect themselves because they've talked about something that they feel very deeply about.
I think that's their real personality coming out, you know? And then they're like, oh my God, I'm doing like a PR thing. I need to, okay, sorry. Okay, where were we again? We're promoting this movie. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the great thing about those Mark Maron interviews is that he just has something about him, I don't know what it is, where people open up and get real. Wow. And it's great. Have you heard that interview, Susie?
I haven't, but I have seen it posted around. Yeah, I'm so freaking proud of him. He's made a huge comeback, and I'm just so excited to see where it goes for him. And I think he's one of the
Oscar nomination, right?
Yeah, I think he's like one of the main super genuine people in Hollywood, and just really appreciate him. So, but it sounds like you guys might understand peaches now. Do you guys have some peaches on your minds?
Jarek, do you want to peach us?
No, not yet.
Wow, no peaches? Really?
That's
none?
the ultimate power move.
Yeah,
he's thinking.
Yeah, Brian, what are your peaches?
Okay, peach number one. After fucking 3 or whatever years of waiting, I am the proud owner of a PS5.
Wow.
Hell yeah.
Yes, I didn't try super hard to get one, but I tried hard enough. I, paid for whatever GameStop fucking Plus or whatever the thing is, where they're supposed to tell you when they have them, but they don't. I signed up for the get an invite for Amazon. We'll let you know when your thing comes up. Never got an email. Last week, I Googled, as I would once every few months, PS5, went to the store. It was just a purchase link right there. And I bought them. So I now have the ability to play DVDs and video games. Yes. My second peach is I had an old friend I haven't seen in a few years. We went to college together, and she and her 4-year-old son came over yesterday. And we just had some family playtime with a really lovely person who I haven't gotten to see in a while. So that was awesome. And finally, my last peach is I am taking the family this weekend to the Youth Symphony, meaning a symphony. The LA Phil does a thing for kids, and they're doing that this weekend. And I have completely forgotten what they are performing, but we took Audrey to see a few things, 3 years ago, pre-COVID, and haven't been back to Disney Hall with her since then. And I'm very excited to bring her back to the symphony. The tickets aren't too expensive because it's a youth thing. And I think it's just so important to get kids out to see shit like that. Seeing a big symphony orchestra is an exciting thing. They're awesome. It's like a 60-piece thing, and they're just viscerally exciting. And Disney Hall is a great space, just a wonderful venue to see live music in. And I think it's going to be really fun. And those are my peaches.
Incredible. Okay, these are my peaches. Peach number 1 is I enrolled into an exercise class. It's 21 days. I'm excited because I've been on my butt basically all winter working away, and I definitely felt it in my body. So I did my first one today it was really early for me, 9 a.m.
You go to a place and do it?
Yeah. So I go to this, it's called the Camp Transformation Center. It's great. It's awesome. It's nice to go to a gym where people aren't already Instagram models. Every time I go to gym, I'm like, fuck, this guy's ripped already. Why are you here? So it's just nice to be in a collective class where they're telling you what to do.
Can I just interject real quick with the gym story before I forget it?
Yeah.
When I first got here, I joined a 24-hour fitness, and I was there working out, and I heard someone talking about Spider-Man. And I was like, what's up with Spider-Man? And they're like, oh. And they point up, and there's a guy in a Spider-Man hoodie crawling around in the rafters and stuff. And apparently he would just join this gym and go up and get as high as he could and crawl around on the top. And I have never understood. This is a big place with clear liability issues right away, right?
That's the most Hollywood thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, it was the most LA thing. I was like, they just let him do that? And they're like, yeah, it's fucking Spider-Man. What can you do? He's just going to crawl around up there.
That is fucking cool.
And they're like, yeah, this guy comes in all the time in his Spider-Man hoodie and gets as high as he can and crawls around. That's my LA gym story. Please continue.
Okay. Second peach is I get to see my mom in a couple weeks for her birthday.
Nice.
We are going back again to the 9th island called Las Vegas. That's what people in Hawaii call Las Vegas. So I get to see my mom. It's her birthday. And this is also kind of a rotten peach because I'm very optimistic. I've chosen to fly out of Burbank Airport.
Nice.
But on Spirit Airlines.
Ooh.
So I've never flown on Spirit, so I'm very optimistic about it.
I haven't either because I've been scared away by all the stories you hear about Spirit Airlines.
Right.
Burbank, I think, will override that.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's an hour flight.
We shouldn't talk about it on the podcast. I don't want people to know about it.
Yeah.
It's still my favorite airport.
It's the best.
Okay, my last peach is I got tickets for my friend and I, Micah, to go see the Postal Service and Death Cab.
Oh, nice.
For this 20-year anniversary of
cool.
Transatlanticism and Give Up. And these are the most expensive tickets I've ever bought in my life. But it's at the Hollywood Bowl, and we're the seated row right behind the pit.
What?
Wow.
Yes.
Oh, shit.
I dropped bills. I don't know if they will ever do this duo of a show again. Ben Gibbard's going to be singing Transatlanticism and Give Up. Both important records to my buddy Micah and I. Back to back.
Oh, dude. Transatlanticism is one of my all-time favorite albums. I love it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You're gonna have a great time.
Dude,
It's gonna
that's
be an amazing
epic.
show.
Outside, I mean, hell yeah, that's a peach right there.
Yeah, it's gonna be killer. I'm so excited. But the caveat is it's like in October. So
So far away.
Have you seen, Jarek? I feel like we must have talked about this when they did the Postal Service 10th anniversary thing, the Postal Service auditions.
yes.
Thing?
Yes.
Did I ever show you that?
No, I saw it. They got a crazy amount of people on. They actually got Mark Maron on
Yep.
it. They got Tom DeLonge, Duff McKagan, Moby,
Yep.
Amy Mann, like
Weird
all
Al.
these Weird Al, dude. Crazy.
Yeah, it's really great. I love that thing. And John Daly is like the record exec in it
Yeah.
too.
Oh, I didn't realize
I love
that.
him. He's so funny.
Oh my gosh. But those are my peaches.
I mean, it sounds great. Okay, everybody gets the peaches part. Well, wait, we haven't heard Sean's peaches.
Yes, Sean needs to peach.
I
Susie.
honestly was relieved when you started going on. So it's just like self-imposed pressure, I'm feeling.
Thought you got away with it, huh? Yeah.
Peach pressure is real.
No, I think a peach for me is my brother and his wife moved to New York last summer. And now that I am home from the road, I'm really getting to enjoy like having first layer family in the city. They live in Bushwick, actually. So I am up in Harlem. It's cool to have like a spot in Brooklyn now that is a little more like home. It's like an hour on the train, but worth the trip now that there's an outpost there. Him and I are doing some music together. He's an audio engineer, I was telling Brian, and a drummer, and just very cool to see like, oh, you're my brother, and what that collaboration can be like. So that's a definite peach for me that he's here. Very close with him. Love him
Nice.
to pieces. Let's see. Another peach. I have been cooking a lot more. I'm pretty good at cooking. My dad was a cook at home, nothing formal, but like made a lot of the dinners and sort of higher level. And I'm doing that more both as like resolution, like do I need to piss $40 away on like McDonald's delivered, or can I make something for, a more rational amount? And I'm really enjoying that. It's like eating more different things, and like now doing it for about a month, it's like, oh, this doesn't feel necessarily like I'm like sort of sacrificing anything, and I have like that freed up that income or that money in the bank account that just bleeds without noticing it when you're in one of those ordering habits. So it has felt like one of those, wow, I haven't like saved money in a way that has felt like, oh, this is so hard, like a diet of any kind, but it's like, there it is. It's just there because it isn't going into that. So that's a weird, like very personal, but very tangible peach.
Yeah.
Those are peaches, I'd say.
Cool. You got one more in you?
Sure, yeah. I would say I had a good holidays this year. Got to be with my family and my girlfriend's family together for the first time, and that was very good. And my brother was there as well, and her brothers. And so that was a peach that is meaningful.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's great.
That was perfect. You got it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, okay. Well, that was only part one. So now we have the second part.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh.
So after peaches comes lemons. It's a little bit easier though, because there's only one lemon each. And your lemon's going to be something that is really getting your goat, rustling your jimmies. You get the picture. Mine is, I'm fucking over technology, you guys. Like, I fucking hate wires. I can't wait for everything to be wireless. I talk very badly to all of my electronics, but I talk nicely to my AI. I've noticed Alexa has started thanking me now when I say thank you to her. That's a very interesting new feature.
Oh, that's nice.
Wow.
That's ethical of you, I feel like,
Well, I mean,
to treat her nicely.
I'll
at
be nice to her,
least.
and then my husband will be like, don't be nice to her. And then I'll like immediately just like be mean to her to even it out. So don't worry at all. The robots are put in their place. But technology has really been getting to me lately. I don't know. Just like I've been fighting a lot of machines, can't deal with it. Really longing for running away into the woods and just creating a cabin and only talking to crows. So that's what I'm feeling these days. That's kind of my lemon. I don't know. What about you guys? Do you guys have a lemon going on?
I do have a lemon. And, I'm glad we did the peaches first, which is unusual for this show. But for me personally, it is perfect today because to understand this lemon, I need to talk about my PS5, which was my peach. So I was very excited. A friend of the show, the amazing Gene Park, has been talking for a while about the new Ratchet and Clank game is one of his favorite games on the PS5. I got the Ratchet and Clank game. I played for 10 minutes and I was immediately dizzy.
No.
Like I felt motion sickness from playing it. And I was like, God fucking damn, hey, it's $60 for this game.
Yeah.
And I was so excited to play it. And I got all of 10 minutes in and I was like, I don't think I can do it. I think it's giving me motion sickness.
Oh, that's the worst.
And yeah, so I'm going to keep trying it. Maybe I was sitting at the wrong angle or whatever. But I was like, God, fuck. I have not had like a serious console in a while. Just Nintendo's for 20 years or whatever. Actually, this is my first ever non-Nintendo console. And I feel like a fake gamer because I can't handle Ratchet and Clank because it gives me motion sickness.
Try playing it on like a full stomach because like I hear that helps with like seasickness. I wonder if it'll help with the gaming. Yeah.
It might. But I played Elden Ring too, and that wasn't a problem. So maybe it's just the camera moves so fast. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my lemon.
I want to interject real quick since you interjected me. When I was a kid, my friends and I, with a couple girls that we were like interested in at the time.
Were their names Ratchet and Clank?
Actually.
I hope not.
We watched Cloverfield in like middle school.
Oh, dude. Don't even.
My dumbass decided to get a cream cheese pretzel.
Wait, what is that?
It's like a soft pretzel with cream cheese in it.
On it or in it?
In it, like stuffed.
Okay, great.
And we were like this to like, so we were like that close to the screen. And if you've seen Cloverfield, it's gnarly. And I just remember puking in front of these girls because I got motion sick watching Cloverfield.
We rented. I didn't see it in the theaters. We rented it at home. I had to leave the room multiple times because it made me so sick.
Yeah.
And that was just the storytelling.
Yeah.
Boom.
Oh my God.
Well done, Brian.
Thank you very much.
Disclaimer, nothing against the Cloverfield people.
No, it's great. It's great. Yeah.
I'll roll with my lemon. I'll piggyback off of Susie's thing that my Mac Mini 2018 has been giving me a bunch of shit lately.
Oh no.
Dude, I've called Apple support like 3 or 4 times. So my time machine keeps saying backup not complete. Can't do this, can't do that.
That's the worst feeling.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, like, I honestly feel, I don't want to throw shade, but I feel like I'm smarter than the Apple techs over the phone.
I think that's probably true.
Yeah.
Because every time they're just like, oh, have you tried this? Have you tried this? And I'm like, no, can you just get me like the highest Apple support person you can? And then they do. And I spoke to one recently and then she was just like, oh yeah, have you tried this? Do this. And I'm like, if it doesn't work, you bring it into the shop. And I'm like, I've called like 4 times already about this specific thing. I'm like, the first time I called, they're like, it's your hard drive. So I got a new hard drive for my time machine. And then now they're saying, okay, maybe it still might be the hard drive.
Oh my God.
I'm like, you're fucking kidding me. And then like, there are like other files, like WAV files, like which are like the standard for like the audio industry. And then this is another problem. Why can't I drag these certain WAV files, 1 out of every like 50? Why can't I just back them up to like other drives? And she was like, oh, I don't know, WAV isn't supported by Apple.
What?
What are you telling? Waves is a PC file format. You're
That's
kidding
the
me.
dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, that's not real.
There's nothing more frustrating than a customer service person who you know is wrong. You know they are wrong.
Oh my God. Yeah. So I was livid. Livid for sure.
Yeah.
I remember talking to one Apple tech person once to open up the terminal, right? And they were like, oh, I can't tell you to do that. And I'm like, dude, I know Unix. Like, it's okay. I can do a Unix thing. And I get it because they don't want people opening up something where they can put in some Unix command that's going to fuck everything up forever.
Yeah.
Right.
But you have to, reassure people, hey, I can deal with like some advanced stuff and I'm not going to freak out. Yeah. And Jarek, you're a total gearhead, dude. You know gear.
Yeah.
Like, you can handle that is insulting. They are
It's
insulting you.
It is. I'm like, I know I'm smarter than you guys. Just give up. And I'm looking at this thing that says backup not completed. Time machine couldn't back up. It's like pissing me off. Every time I'm watching movies or shows at night, I'm like, have to keep swiping it out because I'm like, I get it. Sean, what's your lemon?
Oof. I would say a lemon for me is in trying to do this music that I'm doing with my brother, his schedule and my schedule are oftentimes opposite. It's been good. I feel like a nice commitment, but it's slow going. And I think this is a lemon that I need because I think I've done art or other projects and things where I have really been focused on the result. And even if I'm still doing it, pure and enjoying it, I think I've rushed through things and felt like, I should have taken more time. But the slowness of this to me has been an ongoing challenge. That being said, I really think it's something I need. And I'm enjoying sort of what that slowness and that challenge, even the frustration, what that has been yielding when I have sort of met that and pushed through it, not allowed it to turn into sort of self-indulgent negative spiraling and just be like, no, you understand why you want it to be done fast and understand why it shouldn't be and move through that adult Sean, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So lemons for me are like being an adult and showing up for myself in adult ways. It's a lemon to do them. It's really worth it. And it's a new territory for me. So
that's great.
Kind of a sort of, you said rotten peach, Jarek. That's like a sweet lemon, I'd say.
A sweet lemon. Yeah.
Being an adult sucks. Yeah,
it really does. And then sometimes as an adult, you have a child and it's like, oh, wait, now I need to be more of an adult.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like, God
you
damn it.
You have more adult responsibility on your shoulders. Yeah.
Yes. And I deeply want that someday. So I'm glad that I'm sort of like dealing with some of the, hey, this is what it feels like to be an adult prior to that jump in the deep end, which, will still be a plunge. I feel like it's gotta be.
It's great. I certainly can't really complain because I love being a dad. But being a parent is annoying at, at the best of times.
Yeah.
Dude, Sean, thank you so much for being here with us today. It has really been a joy to talk to you. I just wanted to say thanks for taking the time and for being here.
Thanks, Sean.
Likewise. This was so much fun just chatting. You guys really got a good energy going on here. Jarek, thank you for sort of making the time for me when we had the snafu last week. And so wonderful.
Yeah, of course. We get it. Good. Things come up. So no worries at all.
Yeah. Sean, if people wanted to find you, follow what you're doing, what you're up to, do you want to plug anything that you're doing, your social media?
I mean, they can follow my Instagram at Sean Grandillo. I'm posting less and less, which, is healthier for me. But that will be where ultimately when I'm doing things that I do really care about, I will use it and try to do it in that productive way. So if you'd like to follow along, I can't promise any output or anything like that. But I'm excited to share this show because this is tangible and real, and I feel a lot more myself in this kind of format. So thank you for giving me that, honestly. And to meet a bunch of new people, this is a major peach right here.
Hey. I love it.
So good.
Hey.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's nice to get to meet you and get to know you and hear all about Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
Yes, well pronounced. Susie, do you have any parting words for the listeners?
Just be kind to one another and wear your seatbelt. And please, please, please spay and neuter your pets.
Yeah. I agree with everything except the seatbelt belts. They're a scam. All right, gotta go. Bye.
Bye.
Late Night is produced by Brian Wecht, Leighton Gray, and Jarek Centeno. Follow us on Twitter at Leighton Night, on Instagram at Leighton_Night, or email us at leightonnight@gmail.com.